right, let's bring us down and bring the good old intro in here then.
Welcome to the Fergus Falls Business Spotlight Podcast, the show that takes a deep dive into local businesses and the individuals that run our community. To guide you along the way, here's your host, Jacob Bittner.
Ooh, cupcakes. Who doesn't love cupcakes? If you hate cupcakes, you can turn off my show right now.
You're a monster.
That's right. I've got Jeney Christensen from Peney Cakes in the studio today. Jeney, welcome into the show.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we've been working to get Jeney on, or we being me, working to get Jeney on the show for a long time, and it's finally come to fruition.
Yes,
so
I
I'm
did make
excited
you work pretty hard for it. So.
Yes. I don't know if you noticed the beer place in front of you. Did you notice this beer place in front of you today?
Yes.
Are you a beer drinker?
You know, I'm not a drinker at all, but I mean, I'm willing to taste it. Like it's, you know, like I just don't drink for fun anymore.
I will, I'll pour you, I'll leave this there for the people to see. I'll pour you a little sample out of mine here.
Perfect.
This is Holly's Reef Knot. This is the new creation from Outstate Brewing in collaboration with Holly's Resort out on Otter Tail Lake.
Oh, nice.
So I had an official write-up from Sean, but this is, I left that on my phone, which I don't have. But
of course.
I know this beer well. I'm a big fan of Holly's Reef Knot. This is a IPA. It's an American IPA, 6.5%, 50 IBU. That's our bitterness levels on the beer. So it's, you know, middle of the road bitterness, not super bitter, but it's got like the most delicious terpene flavors.
That's interesting. I used to be a big IPA fan when I was a drinker. So this will be interesting to try the one with the terpene flavor in it.
It's described as an IPA with orange peel, terpenes, relatively hoppy, and a hit of dank. And so it might be the closest thing we get to a hit of dank here in the radio station. But I love those. I love those danks.
I'm interested to try it.
Big fan of the dank. So we'll crack this open.
Cool.
We'll get on to some other stuff here. I'll get to some other sponsors in a bit. But before we do, when I pour this out, why don't you just tell us a little bit about a little intro overview to Peney Cakes. We're going to get into the deep dive, but just the general overview, and then we'll go deeper.
So I guess like the elevator pitch for Peney Cakes is that I am a mobile bakery. So I don't have a storefront. I have a small bakery case that's outside of my kitchen. But the majority of what I do is kind of food trucking with desserts. So cupcakes, cookies, brownies. I do catering orders too, bigger cakes, bigger orders and that sort of stuff. But the bulk of what I like to do is just individual servings of really fun desserts.
I love it. Can you smell that?
I can, yeah.
You crack that over, it's like, whoo, it does smell like the greens.
That's
too.
For sure.
So, but this is just to clarify.
Yes.
They use the terpene flavors.
Of course.
There's no psychoactive component to that. That is strictly a flavor compound that's extracted from the cannabis plant. So cool. Yes.
Awesome.
Very unique, very, very good beer.
So we're trying it then?
We're trying it.
Okay,
We're trying
sounds
it.
good.
Give it a try. Let me know what you think. Because it's more of an artistic taste, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I like it. This kind of stuff makes me wish I still drank, but it makes me feel so gross. And it's just like, why do it if it's not fun, right? So
I feel that.
But yeah, no, that's good. I bet, my partner Brian loves IPAs, and I bet you he'll actually really like that one. So I might need to go get some for him.
There you go. Well, on top of Outstate, we also have to thank Atlas Outdoor Services, Stumbinos, Victor Lundeen's, Lakes Area Grow Co., Elks Point Bar and Grill. So no update on the Smashburger saga. If anyone's wondering about that, the Smashburger saga, I don't know.
I did not hear about this. Well, I live under a rock.
That was just a couple episodes ago. No updates there. I don't know if I'll have any more updates for the people on the Smashburger saga. But get on out to Elks Point Bar and Grill for sure. Go get a Smashburger out there at Elks Point Bar and Grill. Sounds great. But, all right. So let's dive into like the background super deep then. Are you from Fergus?
I am not. No, I grew up in the southern suburbs of Chicago. So I've been in Fergus for, I think, 5 years now. Yeah, 5 years. Yep. 5 years and a month. Yeah. No, I had to check the date, and I was like, yeah, about 5 years and 1 month, I guess you can say technically.
Okay. So what was life growing up like then as a kid?
It was interesting. So growing up in the southern suburbs, I happened to live in the suburbs at a time when Mayor Daley, quote unquote, cleaned up the south side of Chicago. So people who aren't aware, the south side of Chicago is always kind of the rougher side. The north side is where isn't
the south side of Chicago where the show Shameless was supposed to be featured in?
Probably. I don't know, but I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, the north side is the ritzy rich. Those are the richer people, the more well-to-do side of Chicago. And the south side was where the rougher area was. And when Mayor Daley, like I said, quote unquote, cleaned up, he literally just like knocked down all of the projects. And so all of those people who had nowhere to go and happened to be involved in a lot of gang activity and drug activity just kind of kept moving further south into the suburbs. And so I grew up in an area that was we weren't like Dangerous Minds kind of bad. But we did have some teachers thrown through windows. We did have some brass knuckle fights during pep rallies. We had to wear our IDs all the time on school issued lanyards because, we didn't want to have issues with, any kind of gang colors crossing. But because we did have some rival gang members from other schools coming into the schools and beating kids up. So we had to make sure we could prove that we were students at the school. So that was kind of like the area I grew up in. It was, it wasn't like I said, it wasn't terrible, but it definitely, when people sometimes complain about crime in areas like ours, I'm like, you don't even know.
You don't even
know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you graduated high school in that environment?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
I graduated high school. It's funny you say that because I just like unlocked a memory. I don't know if you're familiar with Louis Farrakhan. Mm-mm. He is a very, he's a very prolific and kind of polarizing figure in the Muslim community. He's very, very outspoken, kind of like to the levels of like Malcolm X and, like very, very outspoken man. But I graduated with a couple of his granddaughters. And so we actually on our football field had like bodyguards all around our football field because he is at risk of being assassinated because he's a very well-known, very polarizing figure. So yeah, I graduated with a class of like 400 something kids.
Okay.
Bigger.
Like, did you guys walk through metal detectors when you went?
No, that wasn't until I graduated. They built a new school.
You probably should have been walking through metal detectors.
Probably. There were talks, but we're also talking public schools in south of Chicago. Not a whole lot of money. So yeah, they couldn't really afford the metal detectors. That's why we wore our IDs.
So what did your parents do?
My parents were both factory workers.
Okay.
Yep, blue collar all the way. My dad worked for American Lock, which is a company that people probably don't know about anymore. It was, I want to say, early 2000s. American Lock was bought out by Master Lock. Some people probably are a little bit more familiar with the company Master Lock. And so when I left for college, that same week I left for college, my family was moving to Milwaukee because my dad took a job with Master Lock and they moved him from Chicago to Milwaukee.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, and then my mom worked for a company called Delta that made like plastic car parts.
Okay. So manufacturing,
Yep,
blue collar.
All manufacturing.
You're the first in your family to start a business or be an entrepreneur?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
okay. That's why I asked those questions. Because some people's parents, you can see that like, oh yeah, they're just like, they were driven because their parents were entrepreneurial and all that. So I'm interested to hear where you got your spark. So where'd you go to college? I
did my undergrad at St. Mary's College of Notre Dame. So it's kind of the sister school to Notre Dame. It was across the street. It's the all women's school. Notre Dame actually used to be all men's until I want to say 1976 is when they went co-ed.
Interesting.
And St. Mary's didn't. So my high school graduating class was bigger than my my college graduating class. So that's where I did my undergrad. And then I worked for a year in Indiana at the College Football Hall of Fame. I graduated college like right at the peak of the recession. So it was in 2008.
Okay.
So I just kind of like took whatever job I could. And I was interning at the College Football Hall of Fame my senior year, and they offered me a job.
What were you doing at the Hall of Fame? Sales.
Yep.
So you went to college for business or
I went to
marketing?
college to be a journalist.
Okay.
That's what.
So do you have like a 4-year journalism degree?
I have a comm degree. I got a degree in communication. Yep, communication studies, and then I have a minor in PR and a minor in women's studies.
Well, you sound like you should be doing a women's studies podcast or something. Maybe.
I don't think we need any more podcasts in this world.
I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm going to bite my tongue on that.
Yeah. I mean, I still love women's studies, feminism. That's something I'm really passionate about. But that was, so I worked for them for a year. And then they moved the headquarters of the Hall of Fame from South Bend, Indiana to Atlanta, Georgia. And they didn't take anybody with us. So that's when I took a job with North Dakota State University, actually. I got a job with the athletic equipment department there. So I moved 600 miles away from everybody I knew to Fargo, North Dakota.
And I assume that is the transition that sparked the move to Fergus, obviously.
Pretty much, yeah, because that's where I did that whole stupid thing where you fall in love and get married and all that kind of nonsense.
Did you get divorced too then?
No, I did not get divorced.
I thought when you say that stupid thing, I was like, wow, it sounds like...
it's just my like tongue-in-cheek sarcastic, like, yeah, I found a boy and fell in love and got married. Thing, yep. And so, yeah, that's where I met Brian. And I worked at NDSU for about 5 years and then decided I was done doing the impossible for the ungrateful, is what I always like to say, working in equipment sometimes. You're working lots and lots of hours for not a lot of stuff. And I actually got my master's degree in sports administration because that's what I thought I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be an AD. And then after working with D1 athletics for so long, I was like, nope, I don't want to do this anymore. So I then took a job with the Courtyard by Marriott. So then I transitioned from sales to athletics to now hospitality. So now I'm working in hospitality. But in the midst of all of that, my mother passed away, and Brian got a promotion, and that moved him to the Wadena area.
Okay.
So then we picked up and we moved out to that area, found a little 15-acre farmstead in Hewitt, Minnesota, and I worked all kinds. I did telling at a bank. I worked at UPS for a little bit. I was a server there. I did some operational stuff for an online personal trainer. There was a lot of hopping going around there when for those 5 years that we lived there. And then that's when they restructured the state for Brian's job, and they gave him the choice of either moving to Little Falls or Fergus Falls, and we chose Fergus Falls. Okay. So that's how I ended up here.
And what year did you guys move to Fergus? You said
2019. Yep. So it was like June, July of 2019, like right before the world lit itself on fire.
Nice. So did you know anyone? This was strictly a family work brought you here?
Literally.
Okay.
Yep, literally knew not one person.
Because you're really now you have lots of friends. You're really connected in this community, and that doesn't take very long to happen in Fergus Falls.
No, it doesn't. As I mentioned, I've lived lots of places, and this is by far my favorite place I've ever lived.
That's
like
awesome.
It's really such an excellent community. I did kind of come in like guns a-blazing, like, hey, I'm here, deal with it, and everybody just It was amazing finding that village and just people welcoming you in. And yeah, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Well, we like having you here.
Well, thanks.
I like having Peney Cakes out at the farmer's market. It's nice. It's a nice addition. I know the name of your business has maybe come up a little bit in some other interviews with, I had Mayor Shire on to talk about the startup of Union. I had Evan on to talk about Union.
Yeah.
And so your story has been slightly uncovered to the people as a result of some of these other episodes, but I'm interested in the startup of Peney Cakes.
Yeah. So when I was working, again, in Wadena, so I was doing insurance, and I hated it. I hated every second of it. And I decided that after I had my first child, while I was on maternity leave, that I no longer wanted to do that. And it was soul sucking. I hated it. I was having a ton of anxiety about going to work. And I had an opportunity to work for a friend who does lumber estimating. So again, another huge switch. But I was able to work from home, and it afforded me the opportunity to start growing penny cakes. So that's when it was more of like a hobby that I was getting paid for at that time. But that was kind of always my dream.
In Wadena?
Wadena, okay. Yeah, in Hewitt and Wadena, in that area is where it started. So 2018 is when I started Peney Cakes. And then when I moved here to Fergus is when I decided, all right, let's take it to the next step. Let's start really trying to grow this thing. And then that's when I had the idea that I didn't necessarily want to have a brick and mortar, but I was like, how cool would it be to have a dessert food truck? Like, you don't see those very often. There aren't too many of them. There are some out there. I've seen a few. There's one very popular one in Las Vegas. But like, I haven't seen a whole lot of them elsewhere. And so I was like, let's do it. Let's make this a 5-year plan. And went and started talking to Greater Fergus Falls, talking to the city, figuring out what to do. And then after, 2 years of my 5-year plan, I had my food truck.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So what were you doing then in Wadena with it at the beginning? Were you just baking cupcakes out of your home and selling them to people for events and stuff?
Yes. So it was more of like a catering thing. It was I was a registered cottage food producer, so I was doing everything out of my home. And yeah, that was the majority of what I did. I think in 2019 I made like $600. Like that was it. And then in 2020, surprisingly, even when the world kind of blew up, at the end of that year, I had hit the limit of what cottage food producers could make at the time, which was only $18,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So like in a year, that's what 2,000-something% growth in 1 year. So just to tell you like how amazing Fergus Falls is, I went from literally $600 to $18,000 in gross income.
When you moved here?
When I moved here.
Wow. That's so cool. Yeah. That's a cool story to hear.
It's pretty fun.
As much as it happens in this community where people talk maybe behind people's back, or when there's a new business venture that pops up, there's a million different people and a million different reasons why that can't work, right?
Yep.
But whenever you see someone new or something come into town, this community supports that. This community supports it, and I don't want to say there's like kind of a honeymoon phase for businesses. New businesses, or like maybe when you come to town, you get this like pop, everyone's interested in you right away, and then like the allure of this new thing maybe dies off. That's when we need to support those businesses the most. Just so people who know, people who are listening, like that's when those businesses need it the most, is after that honeymoon period for their business. But it's really good to hear that. I love that attribute of our community, that we are supportive of people when they start something new. So
yeah. Absolutely. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize is a lot of startups, a lot of new businesses fail within the first 5 years, like actually first 3 years. I think like 90% of them will fail. And then within, the next 2 years after that, there's even more that'll fail. So that is something like once that honeymoon, like you said, that honeymoon phase is over and like the newness is gone, like that, those businesses still need you to go in there and purchase things. Cause that's the hard part of the business is after that first 3 years, trying to keep going and keep pushing.
So should we talk about the history of the cupcake?
Sure. Let's do that.
You said you had some fun facts. Do you do like a cupcake facts?
So I have a newsletter, which I have been kind of abysmally sending out this summer. I haven't sent many of them out, but when I do send them out, I actually have like a cupcake fact of the week that I'll put on there. And so what's kind of funny is that cupcakes first started out because they were literally baked in a cup, like in a little, like a teacup, or, like that's how it started. And then there's also some like lore in there that it used to be like, 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of flour, 1 cup, like it was all done by cups, which is why it was called a cupcake too. And cupcakes originally did not have frosting on them. They were basically like cake filled with like fruit is kind of what the original cupcake was.
And that's Interesting, because that's more your style.
Kind
you
of,
do a bunch of filled. I don't know if it's all filled, but a bunch of filled.
A lot of filled ones. I do like filling cupcakes. It's just, I don't know, it's fun to have that little surprise inside. So that's where cupcakes originated from.
Yeah, it says here the first mention of a cupcake-like recipe was found in American cookery in 1796 by Amelia Simons, referring to a cake to be baked in small cups.
And they literally were baked in like teacups and stuff.
Interesting, yeah. It looks like not till 1828 was the earliest known recipe that was explicitly labeled as a cupcake.
And if I remember correctly, I think that's the one that was like, 1 cup of this, 1 cup of that one. Like that's where the cupcake came from for that.
And then obviously like you had, when you look at ancient civilization, decorative baking and pastries and that sort of stuff, that existed in Middle Eastern or in the Middle East would have been like ancient civilization, Egypt, a lot of that intricate pastries and cakes for the wealthy became.
If we're being honest, like Europe and Middle East and Africa, like they got us on the intricate desserts. Like they like as Americans, yeah, sure, we have great cakes, we have great, but we're mostly like just kind of known for sugar, where they're known for the more intricate, beautiful kind of thing. Like they take it to a whole different level that I can't even touch.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing like, I don't remember like the history of the ice cream because I had Uncle Eddie's on here and like we dove into the history of the ice cream and I didn't retain all of that information, but it was like a lot of the desserts before the Industrial Revolution came along and was able to provide like the mass production of sugar. A lot of the desserts were reserved for royalty, and if you were a peasant, me and you, we would not be eating penny cakes.
Yep, they're actually. Oh, that's funny because I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and I'm not going to remember exactly when it was, but it was in that time when sugar was very expensive, and so they were cutting the sugar with like drywall or something stupid like that. You know what I mean? Just to get more of it, to get more out of it. And there was this guy who made these little hard candies, and they were like little peppermint candies. And he told one of his, the guy who like provided the drywall or whatever it was, told his assistant, because the confectioner was coming to buy this stuff to be able to cut his sugar, and the assistant accidentally gave him arsenic instead.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of people died.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of people died. A lot of people got very, very, very sick from eating these candies. But again, it was like, it's something that not a lot of people could afford. So it was a treat, that they got these candies, but unfortunately they were filled with arsenic, because they were cutting sugar, because sugar was so friggin' expensive.
Dang. Well,
yeah.
It looks like 18th century sugar sculpting becomes an art form. So that would have been like a sugar paste and a precursor to the modern fondant.
Yes.
So that was really the 18th century. I wonder if that's the same time all that stuff was going on.
It could have been. Who knows? I can't remember. Now I really want to go back and listen to that episode again, try to like get all that information. But yeah, it was so unfortunate that it was just, and that was also before like the FDA and all, like there were no rules, obviously, if they were putting stuff like drywall in, and like I said, I don't know if that's exactly what it was, but yeah, they could put whatever they wanted in this stuff, and there were no fail safes for it.
Yeah. I'll be the first one to hate on like the overstep of government entities. But then you look back at history and there's like, you uncover the reasons why all of these like government entities exist. And it's just like, it gets to be a lot sometimes. It gets to be a lot of regulations. It's very interesting.
Exactly. It's kind of, why we don't have arsenic in candy. So it might be an okay thing to be okay with.
Yeah, right. 1990s really was the rise of television cooking shows. You started to have like Food Network, the infomercials with like cooking infomercials and stuff like that. So that was a big turning point. The video became huge in the 90s for cooking. The early 2000s led to even more a rise of like cake decorating trend shows, fondant, edible glitter, other decorative techniques kind of going mainstream. And then really this TikTok era. Let's just talk about what TikTok has done to your industry for a little bit?
Yeah, it's TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest really kind of took what people would commonly probably think of as just like a hobby or, your mom working on cakes into this whole thing where like, now it's a cake artist. It's a cake, like it took it to a whole new level of just, mom throwing some clowns and balloons on your cake to this, it turned into a spectacle, really. I feel like it just became an actual structural artistic experience for some cakers. I am not the person that's gonna, I saw recently a caker who made a 2-scale cake of Wolverine and Deadpool,
Whoa.
and it was like what's on the cover of like Wolverine holding Deadpool up, like
super
Dirty Dancing,
intricate, detailed,
all cake, and like held it up. And all I can think is like, and I can't even get fondant to work for me. And here's this woman, like, just the kind of stuff that people can do with cakes anymore.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite shows is that Is It Cake show.
It's so good.
Dude, I love that. I love that
so
Is It
good.
Cake, dude.
It
It's
is.
like, no way that's cake. There's no way that's cake.
It's so wild, the things that people can do with airbrush and stuff now.
Yeah.
Like it's turned into an actual art. Like it's not just, it's not just confectionery. It's not just baking. It's actual art.
Yeah. So talk about your products a little bit. Let's talk about
Sure.
and maybe how you've grown those products kind of since the beginning and taken on more stuff. Obviously, we still have some pieces to fill in about moving into your commercial kitchen and toast and talking about all that too.
Yeah. So I love baking from scratch. I have nothing against box cake mixes. I have nothing against box stuff. I will smash a pan of brownies like by myself out of a box. Like I love it. And sometimes you just really want like a yellow cake with fudge icing, like, again, nothing wrong with that. But personally, I love
my favorite. Whenever I was growing up, my mom would ask me, what kind of cake do you want? I said, I want the yellow cake with the chocolate frosting.
It's so
Betty
good.
Crocker, give it to me.
It's a good comfort. I love that stuff. And you can doctor up a box cake mix super easy. Love it. Nothing against it. I just personally like baking from scratch. I like the challenge. I like being able to. There's like a science behind it. It's really fun to be able to do that. So I don't know. That's just how I started baking. I wanted to do it from scratch. It's how I was showing people I love them, how I care for them, was like giving them these beautiful scratch made desserts. And so that's how I carried it over into the business. Like I wanted things to be scratch made. I wanted them to be beautiful. I wanted them to taste amazing. And then, so that's kind of, I guess that's where the scratch made stuff came
and then
from.
all the different flavors and the creative process that goes into like actually coming up with, I don't know how many different flavors of cupcakes you make now.
Too many.
You have.
Many.
I mean, I always see you doing stuff with like the pop-up you did with the pet spa, Hawthorne in Florida. You know, like I got those treats at Greater Fergus Falls and for all the dogs I know. And it was awesome. It's like that. So there is, you're very creative, obviously. I think that goes a huge part into the development and the differences in your cakes. So like were you doing fillings right away?
No, I would do fillings for certain cupcakes, like if it just felt right or if somebody requested a filling. But once I started doing the trailer, I felt like I need to elevate these cupcakes. I need to make myself stand out. Like, what is it about Peney Cakes that makes it Peney Cakes, right? Because there's so many talented bakers in this area that do phenomenal work and make delicious goods. But like, we all have our thing. You got to find your thing, and that's how you become a successful business. A successful baker is by finding your niche and going with it. And so I decided that like wild, crazy cupcakes are going to be my thing. I don't do boring cupcakes. I can, if not that boring is bad, but if you just want chocolate and vanilla cupcakes for your shower, for your wedding, for your girls' day, whatever it may be, I'll do that. But like if you're coming to the trailer or you're coming to the bakery case, like, no, you're getting a cupcake filled with like marshmallow fluff and potato chips and
I like the cookie dough. I liked the cookie dough one I had. We got some cupcakes for our company. Our company lunch at Spees Park once, and I was like eating this cookie dough cupcake, and there was a ball. It was like an uncooked cookie in the middle of it, like a whole roll of cookie dough.
Yeah,
So
it was edible cookie dough.
Good.
I heat treat the flour, and I omit all the eggs, and so you make an edible, safe cookie dough.
There you go.
And yeah, I just shoved it right in the cupcake. I was like, let's do this.
Where does Peney Cakes?
Yeah,
You're Jeney.
I'm Jeney.
You could have called it Jeney Cakes.
I could have called it Jeney Cakes. But my nickname growing up was Jenny Penny. So my grandfather and my mother were the two that called me Jenny Penny the most often. And they, unfortunately, neither of them were around when Peney Cakes started.
Aww.
So it was kind of a way to pay homage to them by calling it Peney Cakes. And then a plus side was that I didn't have to like put MN at the end of anything or like numbers, because Peney was available, like pennycakes.com, and the handle Peney Cakes. Like it was all, I didn't have to.
Because the spelling was,
yeah, because that's how I spell my name is Jeney. And so I spelled Penny, Peney.
You know, I think it just goes to show how bad at spelling I am. Never even picked up on that. Never even picked up on that part of your business name.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
It just never stood out to me, you know?
It's spelled the way I spell my first name.
I like it.
Yeah, that's where Peney Cakes comes from.
So the location history, did you move in when Ben was running
Kind
Union
of,
then?
yeah.
Tail end of it?
It kind of started, so it started when I originally was talking with Chelsea Biolarts, because she used that back kitchen with Sweeties.
That's right. This also is clicking memories. Yeah, sparking memories. Yeah.
And so I was kind of talking with her about like sharing the space and, like would this work for me? Because I was looking into going commercial. And in that same time was when Tessa was starting to open Toast. And so Union Pizza was already there. But that space used to be the old Cafe 116.
Yep.
And so she was taking it over to become Toast. And then that's kind of when the conversations kind of shifted away from Chelsea and into Ben and Tessa, because they were the ones who were taking over that space then. It was great. It was awesome when we first moved in there, because it was myself, Chelsea, and Evan, and we were all sharing that space back there. And it was so fun, and it was so collaborative. And I really, really enjoyed sharing the space with
Chelsea
them.
was doing ice cream.
She was doing, sorbet at that point, but she did do ice cream. Sweeties was ice cream for a long time. But by the time I got in there, she had transferred into a plant-based sorbet kind of business. So.
Justin the Cone Boy.
Yes.
Justin the Cone Boy. I remember that story now. Yes.
Yes.
Shout out, Justin.
We love you, Justin.
We love you, Justin. Yep. So that menu you offer, or is that, you said a lot. Do you know how many different flavors?
I've never counted it. I don't want to. It stresses me out.
But do you have like a catalog or like a spreadsheet of all the cupcakes you've done and all the different stuff you've done?
Yes, I do have a spreadsheet. And when I'm kind of stuck on like what kind of flavors do I want to do for flavors of the week, because I always have 3 different flavors. So I'll have 2 like dairy full and gluten full flavors, and then a dairy free, gluten free vegan flavor every week. And so sometimes when I get stuck, I'll look at that spreadsheet, but there's tons of scratches of notes on the bottom of flavors that I've been adding, and I just haven't like updated the sheet. But yeah, there's, easily 50 to 60 different like things that, different cupcake flavors that I've created.
Do you find that you have like a more select small few that like are there all the time? Like this is something you can always get? Or
Not
is it
really.
always different?
No, it's always different. I always try to like spread it out. I think that's what makes it kind of fun. Because I know there are people who will keep an eye out for certain flavors, and they're like, oh, she's doing tiramisu this week, and so they like get really excited. So I do like to kind of spread it out as much as I can for that scarcity, because I think it makes it fun, and people want to keep checking to see what flavors are coming.
I like that. One woman show.
I was.
No, you were.
Till recently.
Okay.
Actually, this summer, I did hire 2 assistants. So I have Stephanie Swanson, who is working with me. I call her my Duchess of Joy, because I guess we could talk about that too, like the whole empire of joy, empire of sugary joy that I've got going. So she is my assistant baker. She helps me, and she's my duchess that helps me in the kitchen. Actually, before I came here, she was helping me bake in the dark because our power went out over at Toast. So she was helping me finish baking some stuff and decorating things by our cell phone lights. So that was fun. And then Lindsay Awney is kind of my front-facing employee. Not really employees, but my assistant, my worker that's helping me. And so she works the bakery case for me. She'll work the trailer for me. I call her my Countess of Joy. So, so those, I'm technically still running it all myself, but I do finally have assistants, which has been helpful for not burning out this summer.
That's good. That shows scalability. It shows that you've been successful enough to scale and bring people on. That's really good.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's been really cool to have people work with me.
What other growth opportunities are you kind of looking at recently? Events that you're in too, because you do a lot of farmers market stuff.
Sure. Yep. I do a lot of farmers markets. This summer has been great for like private events. So birthdays, graduations, weddings. I've had a lot of those on the docket, which has been really fun. And ideally how I kind of want to grow, my next step is I want to grow the fleet of Peney Cakes vehicles, I guess. So right now, I have the one food truck. It works. It's great. It's beautiful. But I would love to get more of like a Pinteresty, kitschy kind of looking trailer, like maybe look for an old camper that I can just strip out and then renovate it on the inside to make it more of like a specific event trailer. So when you do rent the trailer, you don't necessarily get the food truck, which I know people love and it is cute, but it would be cool to have something that maybe is more like twinkly lights and, something like you would find on a Pinterest
Make a
page.
little cupcake on wheels or something.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
A little rolling cupcake.
It's funny you say that because I also would love to find like a bicycle with the cooler on the back so that I could throw like cookies in it and just like bike around, like go to the splash pad and be like, it's the cookie cycle or something so people could buy cookies that way. Like now that I know, I'm so excited for Andrea to go into the city bakery. But with that comes again, how do I set Peney Cakes apart from other bakeries in town? And I think being mobile is my thing. I'm not a brick and mortar. I'm a mobile bakery. So expanding that fleet, I think is my next step in my growth of the business.
I love it. That's a cool little, I like the idea of the bike on the trail because I think the growth of that Spees Park is in the splash pad is just the beginning of something really awesome happening with that bike path. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with it, but I anticipate that this is just the beginning of downtown Fergus Falls, that like kids selling lemonade maybe at Spees Park or stuff like that's the stuff that we want. I want to see that.
Absolutely.
I want to see that stuff.
Yes. So. And with the new the aquatic center that's going into, like there's just this community is about to see some really awesome growth and some really awesome things coming. So I'm excited.
I forgot to look up AI's future speculation on the cupcake industry, which is a bummer.
Yeah, it's okay. It's funny that you mentioned that because Wilton, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they're like the brand of like icing tips and, all the different materials and stuff that people use for baking. Wilton is one of the top ones that people use. And they recently posted on their Instagram, they asked AI to make cakes based on, like design cakes on every state in the union. And if you go into the comments, and I kind of agree with it, like people are angry because it's like, well, why didn't you just get cakers from those states to make the cakes? Like, rather than, I get what they were trying to do. Like, it's the trend, right? What does AI think somebody from Alabama looks like? So it's like, well, what does a cake from Alabama look like? But you could have had AI do that and then given it to a caker and then have them design the cake.
Make the cake.
You know what I mean?
Maybe that's the next step. Maybe that somebody's on that.
Maybe. And I can tell you there have been a lot of times where people have sent me different inspiration photos from Pinterest and stuff, and I look at it and I'm like, I can't do that. And that makes me nervous with AI because sometimes you can't tell if it's a real cake or not. And it's like, I can't, that cake, like you'd literally have to be Cake Boss or Duff from Ace of Cakes. Like, you'd have to be that level of artistic to be able to make that cake happen. And also 60% of that cake isn't even cake. You know what I mean? Like, it's Rice Krispie treats or wires or something in there to make it look like that. It's not even really cake. So yeah, AI I think can be used for a lot of great things, but also I think it can get scary in terms of the things that it can do that might end up replacing humans.
Yeah.
And it's like that, the creative side of it, right? Like, why can't I have AI clean my house for me? So that
it will eventually. It will get there. We're going to get there.
I would prefer that much more than have AI write a song
or write your cake recipes.
Yeah.
I do not know where I'd be without it at this point as like getting this information. Like,
Sure.
this is very, very, very nice time saving information to always have AI prepare for me. I don't write episode descriptions.
Yeah.
It's just very, very nice tool to utilize.
Absolutely.
I do think that future is constantly going to be the battle between human creativity and AI generated creativity. I think that's the labels that are going on all the Facebook posts.
Yep.
All the supposedly creative content going on Facebook. Like, I cut shorts using AI.
Sure.
I have a website I feed the long form video into and it cuts it up into shorts for me.
It's great.
It's amazing the tools that you have access to with technology, but then what's it really doing to us? What's it really doing to us?
It's that like whole battle of humanity versus computers, right? Like, where's that line that you gotta toe and be careful with? But I use AI for my website because also it's like, who's actually reading that stuff on my website? I don't want to put a bunch of effort into that. Like, you're going to my website to look at my menu, not necessarily read my my pitch about catering and why you should choose me.
So you do the catering. That's a big part of your business.
It is, yeah.
Call if you need cupcakes for a birthday party. We'll deliver them.
Absolutely.
We had our corporate event. We have cupcakes there. Whenever people come to town and you need to get them a little welcome to Fergus Falls package, like Peney Cakes is a great thing to have in that welcome to Fergus Falls package.
There is a gal who has an Airbnb over by Phelps Mill, and she gets cupcakes for me every single week to put out for her guests. And she has the Ring camera, and she says she can hear them when they check in. They hear the deet 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 of them getting in, and then as soon as they open the door, they're like, oh, cupcakes. So it's a great thing.
No, we had some corporate employees visit here, and we gave them some outstate beer and some Stambino's coffee and your cupcakes, and it's like our community kills it. Fergus Falls kills it with food and with
absolutely all the local
arts and all that
it's
stuff.
It's such an incredible community. I really, really wish people could step back and just look at it and realize how special Fergus Falls is. Like, it's really only a handful of people that get really angry on Facebook, but that handful, sometimes they're the squeaky wheels, right? So they're the ones that get all the grease, but it's such an incredible community. And the things that people are complaining about are not it's not unique to Fergus Falls. Right. There are crappy roads everywhere, people. There are, there are businesses dying everywhere. There's, it's not, this community is so awesome. Yeah. It's so great.
Yeah. It takes that perspective. Somebody who grew up on the south side of Chicago, or somebody who's, been out. I think that if you only know Fergus Falls,
that's all you see.
Exactly. Or if you haven't got out past Fargo, there's a lot of world out there. There's a lot of bad places to be. There's a ton of
world, and there's a ton of things to experience. And I highly suggest leaving for a while. Come back because it's great here, but go experience other places, more diverse areas of our country before you hate on Fergus Falls, because it's really not that bad here.
It's good.
Pretty excellent.
It's pretty good. How about promotions?
Yeah.
I sometimes drop that on people. Anyone say, Jenny, I heard you on the podcast.
I know, right? I wish I had. Usually summer is so cuckoo banana pants for me that it's hard for me to do any kind of specials or promotions. but definitely like come the holidays, I'll have a lot of fun stuff, a lot of things that come up. I do, I always have something for like Black Friday, Small Business Saturday. I have codes that people can use to get any, their treat trays or cupcakes or whatever it is they're looking for. I do a lot of that, and during a lot of other holidays, but summer is just kind of crazy, and so I kind of I don't do a lot of promotional stuff. A lot of deals and stuff during the summer, but there still is space for the fall if people are looking for private rentals of the trailer. I still have some dates available.
Love it.
Yeah.
How is like Instagram, Facebook? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me is gonna definitely be by email because it can stay in my inbox until I can answer you. Where I can definitely tell you, I know a lot of people like to reach out on Facebook or Instagram, but your message is going to get buried in all of the other notifications that come in through those social media sites. So you can send one to me there. I just can't guarantee you I'm going to get back to you in a timely manner, where by email, 100% I will, or even text message. If you go to Google and you see that phone number that pops up, you can text that phone number. It'll come right to my phone, and I'm really good about answering that kind of stuff. Cool. So that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Cool. I will put your email
Thanks.
in the episode description so people can email you.
I appreciate it.
They say that's still the best way to communicate with people.
It really is. Yeah, because I can mark things unread. It's easier to my ADHD brain can make sense of my email inbox, where when it comes to my social media stuff, it's very hard to keep track of, because I have a lot of people sending me private messages even on the Peney Cakes accounts, and so you'll get buried really, really fast.
How about biggest surprise that you ran into so far in this career or in this industry?
That's a really, really good question. I think for me, the two biggest surprises is how much I hate the actual day-to-day ownership of owning a business, like balancing my books and keeping up with social media and like all of that nonsense. Like I'd rather just bake, but I know that like just baking isn't going to sell the cupcakes. I have to do all of the other stuff, and the IRS isn't going to like it if I just shove a bunch of receipts in their face and they're like, here, you figure it out. Like I know that I got to do that stuff, but I hate it. I can't stand that part of owning a business. And the other thing that I think surprised me is how, at the very beginning, how much I was underestimated by certain people in this community. When I would go for mentoring or assistance, there were several people in this town that were like, well, why a trailer? Like, why a food truck? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And it seemed to me like they didn't think it was going to work, and it does. And so it's kind of nice to be like, what now?
I love that.
Yeah. So those were the two biggest surprises to me. Yeah.
There was nobody that said a podcast couldn't work in Fergus Falls.
Right?
Nobody said that. No, I feel that.
Now look at you.
I feel that though. I absolutely feel that.
It's cool to see how far you've come too from when you started to now. Like, look at the studio we're in.
But that goes back to what I was saying about our community earlier, in that we do get this rap of there will be people who they give you advice, and everybody is going to give you advice in the context of what they would do if they were in your situation.
Absolutely.
But they're not you.
Yeah.
They're not you. They don't have your vision. They don't understand the end game for what you wanted to do with the food trailer and how unique it was going to be to have a little trailer that you could just park at the farmer's market. And that's your brand, right? Like that is, I'm in marketing now. That is your branding. That is how people know you.
Yep.
So
exactly.
It's an identity. It's not only like a business model. That trailer is like an identity of your business.
It 100% is.
It works.
Yeah.
It works. Yeah.
You gotta find. I've said it before. Like you gotta find that village. Like especially like business. Like find those people that are gonna champion you. And they'll give you advice and they'll steer you in the right direction, but they're never going to look at you and be like, but that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? They're not going to, they're going to champion you and get you to where you need to be and get you into a cool studio doing podcasts, like, and get you to where you're in a trailer. You have to find your people.
Yeah. But on the flip side,
Yes.
you need those people too. You need those people.
Yeah.
And I think the further you get into your business, the less you listen to those people, eventually they won't be there.
Yeah.
And you need that feedback. You
Yep.
need somebody to look at your business or what you're doing from a different perspective. And you have to be open to that feedback too. So there is a fine line
That
between,
is so true.
between all of that.
It
But
is true.
how about best business advice?
Best business advice.
Eat cupcakes.
Eat all the cupcakes. I would say just for me, and especially I think as a woman, like, don't let people push you around. Don't let people tell you that your dream doesn't matter, like, or that your dream doesn't make sense. I still recently had a guy come up to me and start trying to tell me how to run my bakery case one day. And I started getting very defensive, and he even asked, he goes, "It seems like you're getting really defensive." And I was like, "Well, because I am. Like, I'm a successful businesswoman in this community. The bakery case is working. I just hired people. Like, I don't understand why you think you need to come tell me how to do this stuff." And so I think like that is just stick to your guns. And if you have an idea, try it. If it fails, try the next idea. You know, don't let it get you down. You just got to keep pushing. You got to keep going. So
I love it. I love it. Well, what didn't we get to today? They know how to get a hold of you. We got that in the description. We talked about employees. We talked about branding, background of cupcakes, future. You are mainly looking to stay put with your kitchen.
Yes.
And just expand on the offerings, mobile offerings.
I don't think you're ever going to see Peney Cakes in a brick and mortar. I don't think you're ever going to see like a physical bakery with me, but I definitely, so if anybody out there has a tray, like a camper that is basically unusable that you're looking to get rid of for a couple $1,000s, please let me know, because I want to strip it and turn it into a cupcake trailer. But yeah, that I would say, yeah, that's the future. I love the kitchen I'm in. I love that we've all become a big family over there, the Toast and Union family. And it's cool being a part of that.
Yeah, I just had breakfast at Toast this morning with Jaden.
Oh, look at that!
Yep,
right before
awesome.
the power went out.
Yeah, we must have got out of there right before the power went out. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad I finally got you on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad this was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I don't want to say we'll do it again, but I would be open to having you on again if the topic were if we could figure out a topic to talk about or some other stuff, or maybe some other people. Maybe do like a bakery roundtable or something with all the bakers in town. Get a bunch of you guys together, maybe.
Let's do that. That would be so much fun. I love that idea, actually. I love there's so many amazing, talented bakers in this community. That would be super cool.
It's great. So.
I've wanted to do a battle of the bakers for a while.
Yeah. Did they do, is the Best of Ottertail County, is that a bakery, best bakery? Is that a thing? No, they don't do that category?
No, they used to. It's not there this year. They had a best cupcake last year, and now it's gone. Like this year, it's not there. So
that's fine. We're not here for
it's fine.
Popularity contests.
Yeah, that's kind of all it is. But but no, I've always wanted to do some kind of like fundraising battle of the bakers thing, where we would have like amateur bakers and cottage bakers and professional bakers, like have us all compete. And I think it'd be super fun to have like kids from the school be the judges, because they're just hilarious and like super honest. And I think it would be so fun to have a bunch of first graders just rip my cupcakes to pieces.
That is a great
Wouldn't it be
idea.
Fun? It'd be so fun.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and that's someday in my infinite amount of free time, I'll figure out how to do that.
There's some potential for that, though. That sounds like it could be a really fun event.
I think it'd be fun. So. I think it would be super cool.
Cool. Well,
awesome.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, thank you guys. Yeah, thank you for coming in, Jenny. Thanks to the listeners, everyone who listens to the show.
Awesome.
Whether you're on YouTube, following along on Instagram, whatever, I appreciate you. The show needs you.
Yes.
Community needs these conversations. Yes. So we'll keep having them. You guys have a good week, and I believe it's Liberty Businesses Group next week, so I'll have to learn about them, I think.
Well, in the meantime, come buy some cupcakes.
That's right. I do have to give a shout out as well here. Atlas Outdoor Services, Outstate Brewing, Stumbinos, Victor Lundeen's, Lakes Area Grow Co., and of course, Elks Point Bar and Grill.